What's your best holy it that actually worked story? Back in college, I was walking to a lake and saw a very attractive girl kinda pouting next to her car with the hood up. I stopped to see if I could help even though I have no knowledge of cars. I kinda faked looking around the engine and said something like probably a fuse. I opened the fuse box and just kinda fiddled with them all willy-nilly like. The damn car turned on first try. I tried not to act surprised at all and she totally bought it. Went out a few times and stayed friends after. Still no idea what I did. I was at a concert a few years ago. As a poor college student, I had cheaty seats and was super jealous of people who had general admission tickets who could be right up close with the stage. The people with general admission tickets all had red wristbands to get onto the floor. I was angrily eating a bag of Doritos when I suddenly had an epiphany. The color of the Doritos packet is almost the same as the color of the wristbands and it's very dark. So my sister and I cut up the Doritos packet and fashioned ourselves wristbands with it. Then we joined a large group of people entering the general admission area. I coolly just flashed the wristband at the security guard without pausing and kept walking. He didn't stop me. It ended up being one of the best concert experiences of my life. A girl I had a crush on constantly touched my beard because she thought it felt fluffy. I didn't mind. Then I said to her, if you touch my beard one more time you'll have to allow me to touch your butt. Wink. She touched it and I got to squeeze that ass. And that was my holy shit. That actually worked moment. I'm normally a shy guy and suck at flirting, but that was a proud moment for me. Way deep in the woods I had to get a bunch of tools out of a shed that was inundated with thousands of horseflies. So I took a glass bottle I found in the trash, filled it with gasoline, put a rag in it, lit it, and tossed it into the tool shed. Gasoline by itself cannot work like napalm, where it sits on the surface and burns a long time. The gasoline consumed itself almost instantly, killing most of the flies in a giant fireball. The smoke chased away what was left. The tool shed and everything inside was in great shape. I was worried it would burn the whole shed down. Holy shit. That worked. My boss has always been very laid back and open about his personal life. He can also be an asshole. After his wife had a baby and recovered, their sex life dropped off and he complained about it constantly. One day I asked him what he did for her and he admitted he was a big dick to her. I adore my boss's wife. And I was sick of hearing him itch. I blurted out, no one wants to duck an asshole. He went home for his lunch break. And when he came back he thanked me for being straight with him. Apparently he just repeated what I said to his wife and they're doing better. I was sure he'd be too offended by my statement. Not that I'd helped him with his marriage. The time I slapped a grenade out of the air. I'm in a fight with approximately 6 insurgents. There's 10 of us. So I figure we've got this in the bag. I poke out of my cover and open up with some covering fire so one of our guys can press up onto their flank. Next thing I know, I hear a Damien. Look out and I realize I've got a grenade on a direct path to my face. So I slap that sheet out of the air and into a nearby, fortunately abandoned, building. I only realized later how ducking lucky I was that it had worked. Was trying to see a concert but the tickets were sold out to the club. My friend introduced me as Sean Combs to the bouncer, who checked the list, then parted the velvet ropes to let me in. Sean Combs is P. Diddy's legal name. He was supposed to attend the same show. I am a white dude. Cop pulled me over for riding someone's ass. They were going 42 in a 45 on a backcountry road. Angrily asks me if I'm in a hurry. I replied, no officer. I'm just an asshole sometimes when I drive. But I'm trying to be better. Let me off. This is my grandfather's story. He grew up in the Rust Belt. Through the Great Depression. When he was able to start working, he found a job in the steel mill making train axles and stayed until retirement. He was a gangly Irish guy, fond of a good joke. On cigarette breaks, he could always be found fooling around with his co-workers. After bragging about how well he could blow smoke rings and blow spit bubbles filled with smoke, his friends called on him to demonstrate his prowess. Never one to disappoint a crowd, he obliged. He decided to begin by blowing a smoke-filled spit bubble. He gently blew it from his lips. As the spit bubble popped on the way to the floor, a tiny smoke ring emerged from its center and grew into a decent-sized ring. Everyone was shocked, but no one more than my grandfather. He had demonstrated 2 of his tricks in one shot. What luck. His co-workers begged him to show them how he'd done it, but he played coy. They never found out that it was a one-time occurrence. He quit smoking not long after. He had a feeling it wasn't good for you. I was driving uphill with no cruise, so I had the gas down, then started going down the hill and didn't let up. I looked down, I'm going 85 in a 70 and there's a cop right in front of me. He pulls me over. Cop, do you know why I pulled you over? Me, I was driving entirely too fast. Cop, looks stunned. Yes. I appreciate your honesty. Most people try to make excuses. He let me off with a warning. Once I got a new video game and was too lazy to run and get scissors. I had short nails. So how the hell was I supposed to break open that annoying plastic wrap? I looked over to my large, fat cat gently sleeping in the corner of the couch. It then dawned on me. So I reached over and grabbed my cat's paw and squeezed, unsheathing her magnificent claws that I then used as a knife to open the packaging. It's my only and best MacGyve moment. When I was in college, I was crushing on a girl in my friend group. Thought she was straight, but in a laugh and joke kind of way I asked her out and she said yes. Still thinking she was joking, she hit me up later that day on MySpace and asked if I'd been serious, 'cause if I was, so was she. Couldn't ducking believe it. My wife and I hadn't had sex in 8 months. Lots of issues. Her mom died. She was pregnant, then had a C-section. We moved and had to live with my parents for 2 months while they finished remodeling our house. She has a 40-year-old brother that was still living with her mother that we now take care of. And we slept in a room with my 3 other kids. So I sent her this SFW picture. It worked. My friend and I were working on our final engineering project in college. We'd been up 48 hours straight designing this electrical device, creating a wire wrap diagram and whatnot. As we began wire wrapping, we had hundreds upon hundreds of wires to wrap, all based off a chicken scratch hand drawing that we'd worked up on the fly on no sleep. We realized we would have no time to actually try and get it working. We just had to wire wrap everything as quickly as possible just to get partial credit for completion. As we finished, both of us delirious, with the sun coming up and the project due in an hour, we decided to power it on just to see what would happen. Switch on. Both of us did that just work on the first try. We got an A. Literally anytime I finished a coding project. I recently started working part-time with a speech tech company, and my job is basically to modify the code for the English text-to-speech voice so that it works for Finnish. But for this, I didn't have any coding experience, and they barely taught me anything. Just you'll probably figure it out by looking at this one. After a lot of trial and error, I finally managed to fix something. It was a beautiful moment. Poured pure grain whiskey in a boat motor gas tank while being stranded on a lake with a dead motor and a storm coming in. It actually got us close enough to the bank for us to pull the boat on the bank and seek shelter. I had a Ford Bronco II from 1989. Once the starter was failing, and a friend of mine said I should try poking it with a stick a few times. I thought to myself, this bullshit can't be true. I tried, and for my surprise my freaking car jump started in the first try. I was mind blown. I posted this one a few times. I was attending a friend's college graduation, and President Bush was doing the commencement. Because of security and traffic, the best way to get there was to take a free shuttle bus from the local mall. We arrive and there's this long line waiting for buses in the middle of the parking lot. We get to the back of the line and I convince several people to face the opposite way. The next bus pulls up and the driver thinks the end of the line is the front because of the way we're facing. She stops and lets us on. You would have thought a riot was going to break out. People are yelling at the bus driver and she's like, "What do you want me to do? There's another bus in a minute, bye." We waved at the angry mob as we left, praying they wouldn't be seated near us at the ceremony. Worked out a function that would recursively pass through a binary tree and return it as a linked list. I designed it in my head while I was stocking groceries over the weekend. Aside from a small syntax error, it worked perfectly the first time I tested it. In 4th grade we had monthly book reports that I absolutely hated. I would always wait until the last weekend to do it and I hardly ever read the books. Well, one month I just didn't do it. Straight up didn't even check out a book. Well, come turn-in day I don't have a book report to turn in, so I fake being sick to skip. The next day as I walk into class already trying to come up with an excuse on why I don't have it the day after it's due. To my amazement, when I walk in I don't see my teacher but instead a substitute for the day. Great, now I have more time to come up with a better excuse beyond I forgot. The next day the teacher is back and as I walk in starts asking me about my book report. I simply said I turned it into the substitute the day before so it should be on her desk. She spends a few minutes going though the piles of paper are on her desk but couldn't find any evidence of it. Ended up getting an A on it because the sub must have misplaced it and I shouldn't be held accountable for the mistake of an adult. Never in a million years did I think my teacher would believe my obvious bullshit. I went to a concert and wore a panda onishi. I walked up to the VIP entrance and just walked through, and when the bouncer was like, "Let me see your ticket," I responded with, "I'm a Mudican panda," and walked up the stairs and he just laughed and watched me lol. Once was in the passenger seat with my feet out the window, IDKY. I was 14. My mom got mad and told me to stop. I bet her the next car we passed the passenger would have their feet out like mine. They did. With them, at the time, new GF and things got heated. She wasn't on the pill and I was out of rubbers. I sarcastically and slightly disheartenedly stated, "Well, looks like I have no choice but to put it in your butt," and she simply stated, "I've always been curious." Good times. I was at a bar in college and saw this girl that I knew from a study abroad program. I had a huge crush on this girl and I was far too shy to do anything about it. The bar we were in was loud, so I had to basically yell into her ear so she could hear me. I was pretty drunk and told her that I had wanted to sleep with her since I met her. Made out with her at the bar and slept with her soon after. I was amazed at how being so direct worked. Probably not a good tactic to use often. However, I was working it for a school system when the tech demo for Windows 7 was released. I installed it on a trial computer to make sure all of the software and connected devices we used in the various computer labs would work on Windows 7. While we were testing it out, it had blue screened on us. We restarted the computer and the OS wouldn't boot up. It instead gave us a message saying the OS had been corrupted and asked if we wanted it to run the auto repair utility. The auto repair feature had never worked on any previous Windows OS, so we clicked on it already pretty sure that we were going to end up having to fully reinstall the OS later. It ran for a couple of minutes and then the computer restarted and the OS booted up normally. We were all standing there shocked that the auto repair had actually worked. I was at school dorms waiting for a package and checked my mailbox. I saw it in the mailbox of my friend who shares the same name as me. Through the slit of the mailbox. Now I didn't have his keys and I needed my package, which was quite deep inside the mailbox. So what I did is stick 2 pairs of chopsticks together with some tape and try to fish it. After some effort I managed to pick it up, mind you. The box was 30 centimeters long and 20 centimeters high. So when I finally got it out, I was so excited to find out that it was in fact really my friend's package. My brother was once casually performing magic tricks for a family friend. My brother handed her a deck of cards and let her shuffle. Then asked her to name a card. She named the Ace of Hearts. He flipped over the top card, revealing the Ace of Hearts. I knew this routine. That guess was supposed to be wrong. He would then jokingly continue the rest of the routine. which involved a couple card forces and some fancy cuts. But he stopped right there, let the friend inspect the deck, and ended the show. She spent half an hour begging desperately for him to reveal how he did it. To this day, she has no idea it was a complete fluke. My son flushed a plastic toy down the toilet that ended up getting jammed perfectly in the trap. Ironically, it was a toy boat. I removed the toilet and tried my best to remove it from both ends. My effort last resort decision before buying another toilet was to burn it out. Poured some lighter fluid into the trap and threw a match in. Holy shit. That actually worked. Melted just enough to pop out. I drive a 1997 Ford Taurus with automatic windows. One day my window went down and wouldn't go back up. So I googled the problem like any reasonable person. First result said turn the car on. Open the door. Go 6 inches below the lock stem and bang hard 3 times on the door while holding down the window up button. Window went right up. That was over a year ago and it's still working fine. I was helping my college girlfriend move from her high-rise apartment. We rented a pickup truck and parked in her basement garage. And loaded up all her stuff. When we went to leave the parking lot, the truck was too tall to exit the garage. I would have scraped the roof of the truck's cab on the ceiling of the exit. It had to do with the angle of the driveway. The pickup truck had huge fat tires, so I let half the air out of them, which lowered the truck's height enough we were able to exit the garage. Then I drove to a gas station and refilled them. I remember in senior year of high school in the last days, I forgot my ID. I didn't want to put up with the 2-minute process of getting a temporary ID. So, I pull out my lifesaver mint and hold it up like the IDs we have too. And I pull out my best display of confidence. I looked at the guard straight in the eye. And it worked. Security let me pass. Holding out a friggin' mint. Edit, realized I wrote ID and another word instead of ID. First live in GF at her absent mother's house. Kitchen drainage pipe frozen and cracked. Water pours out of it with enthusiasm. So needs to be fixed with little money and no help. Rig some soft connector deal with clamps and glue. Cut up into house. Clear bad insulation. Cut out crack in the elbow joint. Sand and clean. Utilize said soft connector. Finish up. That moment of running the water for the first time while you stare slack-jawed waiting for the whole thing to explode in a watery, hopeful handman explosion of pain and embarrassment. It works. Must have stood there for 3 solid minutes. You would be surprised how often a well-placed smack gets something working again. Usually because of a poor electrical connection. Something stuck. Etc. My best holy shit. That actually worked story is actually a collection of 5,486 instances. Source, I'm a mechanic. And dabble in electronics. Finally have somewhere to post this story. Back in probably about 11th grade my parents took my buddies and I on a beach vacation. Being the bad kids that we were, we waited until they went to bed so we could smoke some weed up. So we started smoking a huge joint on the balcony of our hotel room. We were up pretty high so it was windy. And when my turn came, a gust of wind blew the joint right out of my hands. This was about all we had left and we were pretty bummed. My friends ripped on me and to add insult to injury we could see where it landed. It had landed at the edge of another balcony about 2 or 3 stories down. So it was just sitting there. I woke up the next morning and suddenly an idea hit me. I tied all of our phone chargers together. So it was about 3 or 4 chargers. Then I chewed up a piece of gum. Stuck it on the end of the phone charger rope. And went fishing. So there I am dangling a long rope of tied together phone chargers over a balcony. My friends come up and start ripping on me. Like that's actually gonna work. And you better not drop our chargers. But after only a few minutes the joint stuck to the gum and I pulled it up. Blew my friends' minds. Blew my mind. I wasn't even sure if I could do it. Then we got high and went to the pool and had a great day.